All right, guys, so I'm here to talk about how great it is to do runtime type evaluations. No? Nobody? All right, that was supposed to be a joke, but I'm here to talk about why actually we've adopted type-safe stack at Nitro, Play, Akka, and Scala, of course. And rather than go through specific code examples, what I'm hoping here to do is to give you guys actually a framework for adopting new technologies at large, but also actually for adopting specifically Play, Scala, and Akka. And I'm going to try to cover that by giving you 25 concrete examples for how we've done that at Nitro. This is actually work in progress, so I'd love to get your feedback on it. And if you guys are adopting any of these technologies at your own company or your own open source project, let me know. I'd love to help out and share the lessons learned. This has also been inspired by having been to one of these conferences over a decade ago and coming back to work and then trying to actually go and apply what I learned at the conference very next day. And talking to a number of you over at our booth right by the front door over the last 2 days, what I've heard is that some of you are already using Scala at your company, but it might be still on the outskirts of the main projects, and some of you are really intrigued and you love Scala. That's why you're here, and if you don't love it, you probably have been convinced about that by now. And you really want to go back to work on Monday and start using it and start figuring it out. But what's going to happen is you're going to be faced with a number of questions. So my goal here, hopefully, is to share a number of lessons learned, give you maybe some quips or give you some ideas of how to deal with those questions, answer those, and become really successful. I want to frame this just by giving you a really quick summary of what we do over at Nitro, because it's kind of important for some of the technologies that we use. So we're a document sharing and collaboration service. We enable this for millions of our business customers, and we handle millions and millions of documents on a monthly basis. We work with documents online or offline, and we try to say that we have a global reach anytime and anywhere. We started on the desktop as a C++ application, and then last year we actually relaunched a number of that IP as a stack of SaaS services running in the cloud using Play and Akka and Scala, and we're really looking to scale this. We're trying to be this complete solution working with your devices wherever you might be. So once again, why this is important for us and for this talk is because we started really as one type of a stack, C++ on the desktop, .NET services in a public cloud architecture. We were already dealing with 5 million active monthly users. We were a cash flow positive company. So why change, right? Like, why would you ever want to change? Well, as we kept scaling, we started encountering some really weird issues with our performance, with our uptime, just how expensive it was to run some of our cloud infrastructure. Whereas right now, where we are today, all of our backend services are type-safe stack, Play, Scala, Akka. We've done an amazing job at reducing the average response time, and already we've transitioned over 2 million active users on a monthly basis, being web-first users. So it's been a journey. It hasn't been a straightforward path at all. We've had to take some detours, and we've taken some pit stops to reassess where we were. And what's actually happened over the last 3 years is like, early on, looking at Play and Scala, I wanted to apply it immediately at my company, and then we realized that we were running into a number of hurdles and had to answer a number of business questions. So we first actually went with Play and Java, completely hosted on Heroku. Then we started bringing that kind of in-house and went with a hybrid model. And then we finally, earlier this year, went with Play 2, Scala, Akka, all done and deployed inside of our colo. And why that's interesting is because this is where all the, there was a talk about the DevOps and how important that is. And when you're doing re-platforming so frequently and so often, you really want your DevOps guys to be your best friend. So I'm going to talk about, for the next 10 minutes, about the framework for embracing our tech stack evolution. I'm going to break it down into 5 high-level topics and give you 5 hopefully simple takeaways for each one of these. So it's a 5x5 structure. We're going to talk about people, performance, product, process, and productivity. So first thing first is, you go back and you maybe want to apply Apache Spark. Maybe Stitch is going to become open source. You want to try to get your hands on that. And a tendency, at least my tendency, was that go back into a dark corner and start working on it right away. But guess what? Don't do that. Let your boss know. because unless he knows what you're working on, it's really going to be hard to get the sponsorship, corporate sponsorship. Make sure that you champion this solution together. Make sure that you're actually a hands-on champion as well. Don't be paying it lip service. As an example, and be right there, speaking up at events like this or in front of your company. The first version of Nitro Cloud that we deployed, it was literally an all-hands meeting, and it was a deployment to Heroku where we staged a simple bug. Nobody knew that it was staged, and then we fixed it right away just to show how powerful working with Play was, how quickly we could test it, how quickly we could redeploy it, and how quickly it would go then back live into the hands of customers. Make sure that you seek out early developers at your own company, your own project. And probably the first stop should be after you talk to your boss and you explain basically what you want to do, and he gives you kind of the skeptical look because you still don't have all the answers. The first next stop should be the DevOps team. And yesterday we had a really great talk about DevOps and some of the tools that will help you, like Jenkins, or it could be the continuous integration, continuous deployment. Organize informal hack sessions. One of the things that we've done really successfully at Nitro is dealing with a real production issue, as long as it's not a burning issue that has to fix ASAP, and try to get your hands try to get your hands into with the brand new technology and apply that to a hopefully well-isolated problem. This is an example of something that we're going to be open sourcing soon, but we are dealing with hundreds of millions of S3 blobs and in our buckets for our customers, and we want to continue performing health checks on those and copying them and do all of those things. And actually, enumerators and iterates were really, really great first step for us adopting Scala at Nitro. Make sure you also align with the tech community, right? There are different tech communities out there, Scala, Ruby, Python, all of those are potentially really, really great frameworks or languages. Make sure that the one that you're picking fits you. And what I mean by that is, the conferences like this are really great to actually get to meet the authors or the people behind the technologies that you want to use. Reach out to them and figure out, how they can help you figure out, they're humans. They really love preaching and teaching what they are working on. And so figure out if you're going to get the type of support that you need to get because you're starting from scratch. And I was really positively overwhelmed early on how great the Play Framework community was. Reaching out to the guys at LinkedIn, getting their feedback. James Ward at Heroku was really awesome. So that was one of the big reasons why we actually went with Play in the first place. And then if you're adopting a brand new technology, it's likely that you're not the expert, right? Because you're coming up after this conference, you're all like, open-eyed, and you want to figure it out. So you need to attract some external talent to help you out with this. It might be from the community, might be from consulting, but hopefully you're going to be able to bring aboard full-time members to help you out. Whatever you do, make sure you're being authentic. Make sure that you're being yourself. Hackathons are a great way to cost-effective ways to attract new talent. Some of our best engineers came from hackathons. So whatever you do, be authentic. Early on, we launched this site that's still up. It's been 3 years up now. It's called No Bullshit Site. It's one of our values at Nitro, and so that's really been great at adopting new technology and attracting new talent because that was the first site actually that went live using the Play framework. So let's talk about performance. So you want to make sure that you're instrumenting, you're benchmarking your existing application or your existing production solution. So APM solutions like New Relic, App Dynamics, you should really be investing into that first and foremost before you start moving and ripping things apart and changing them, because this is how you're going to actually, in the end, going to be able to prove that what you're doing is somehow better. Because if it's not better, why do it? Or why adopt it globally across the company? This is a mouthful, but I hope it makes sense. You can only optimize what you measure, and what you measure is what you optimized. So be aware of vain metrics. So at Nitro, we had these super awesome, expensive, big TVs that were showing us live stats about our users. And when we launched that stuff, it was awesome. I was personally overwhelmed because first day we launched Nitro Cloud, we had something like 100,000 people use it. And it was really awesome just watching, numbers or emails or names of people swinging by on the screen. But guess what? That can be really distracting if that is not what you're trying to optimize for, right? We didn't have an issue with the top of the funnel. We had an issue with document processing. And once we realized that we needed to, move away all the things that were distracting to us and focus on document processing performance, it was not until then that we actually started using akka for real. We had akka prior to that for a whole year, but we were really not optimizing it. Measure and optimize your deployment speed. So talking to some of the guys yesterday, some of us are on bi-weekly cycles, some of the guys are on a quarterly release cycle, and some guys release to production several times per day. And how quickly you can release product, even if you're doing it once per quarter, is actually really, really important. So make sure that you optimize and monitor and instrument all of that. I know there were some famous articles out there several years ago talking about SBT, performance, building Scala and all of that, but for us it's been amazing. SBT, module code, Jenkins, Nexus. We had a presentation about that yesterday. It actually works really well. Measure and minimize local dev time, or dev idle time, really. And what I mean by this is make sure that you track a few things that are really, really important to you when it comes to just how performant your engineers, your developers are. So in Nitro, we used to, not anymore because it's a bit cruel, the entire engineering team wouldn't go for lunch on the first day until the person was completely set up and was able to push their code to production. And then we got 20 people, and then somebody was always hungry. But make sure that you optimize for things that are really important to you, and make sure that you again work with DevOps, because using frameworks like Play, you can make the local redeploy time almost unnoticeable. Last bit about performance is someone's going to ask you to prove it. Someone's going to ask you to either prove why it's better, or they cost less, or that it's not going to break the bank. And so build ROI calculators really early on, because someone's going to come asking for it. And for us, it was important to really talk about the cost of S3, because again, we ship millions of documents around every day. So speaking about product, I'm going to go through these slides, the product slides, a bit quicker, because really you need to treat, the main message here is you need to treat your tech stack as a product. So you need to make sure that you're not adopting new technology just for kicks. That's research, that's not development. So make sure that the business understands, and make sure that you as an engineer are being pragmatic, and you're really shipping code fast and meeting business needs. And you're going to get your chances down the road to really maybe play with some cooler tools, but you have to earn your chances. One of the things that you want to do as well is when you're adopting a new technology is pick a high impact functional parity project to get started. And by this, I don't mean something that's absolutely core to your company, but something that hopefully is high impact because it's not performing right now. And adopt the new technology to work on it, because you're in training wheels mode early on, and you're trying to prove yourself. Don't ignore the table stake features like performance or uptime or stability, because while it's really cool to maybe adopting, just naming it Apache Spark, unless your users are having logging problems like potentially they were having at work, you don't get to do some other cool technologies until you handle this. Otherwise, you're not going to have a job a month afterwards. Optimize for the speed of innovation, and here what I mean by that is really how quickly you can release, and really measuring how many tech stack evolutions you can have. And of course, treat the tech stack as a evolving product itself, meaning that you actually need to apply proven product management practices to it, like iteration, quick iteration, quick releases, measuring metrics, and working off of that. One liner here that's really the most important one about the process is that DevOps solutions matter. Chef plus Vagrant, we're really huge fans of this at Nitro. We're going to be hopefully open sourcing some of the things for us. And when you're working on an existing product code base and you're building on new stuff, you have to be able to switch frequently back and forth. Chef plus Vagrant is thumbs up. Democratize research and solution design. So, you come back from a conference like this and you think you want to, learn and apply all the lessons learned yourself. Don't do that. Talk to other senior members across the team and build a bit of a groundswell together. Focus on demonstrable results first and foremost. As I said, when we were as I started as a first engineer at Nitro in San Francisco, my first job was to actually create a recruiting site, and I used Play Framework for it, and it's still live right now at the /nobullshit site. So quick results fast. Accept that you will need to iterate. This means that even if you are applying a brand new technology, understand that there's going to be lots of quirks to work out down the road. Another really important point when it comes to process is we heard a lot of companies or a lot of people stand up here and talk about how their companies apply reactive engineering principles. If you're doing that, make sure that you apply that to your stack as well. Productivity, engineers are really expensive as resources, so you want to make sure that you reduce non-engineering work for your engineers. Early on, before we had even the DevOps team, where we could afford resources like that, we were all pushing directly just to get push deployments to Heroku. Be careful what you measure when it comes to productivity. Number of lines of code, comparing number of commits might actually gamify things the wrong way, and you might actually be gamifying blindly. So please try to avoid doing that. We, for example, for the sake of fun, had a Jenkins drinking game type of thing going on in Nitro. And that created some disincentives where people really felt potentially targeted because they were not committing as fast as other people. And that's just the wrong way of looking at the metrics that don't matter at all. And the point that I had in the previous slide was you can actually apply, there are metrics that matter. And those are the metrics around the code, the test coverage, how frequently your code churns and produces issues. And you can do paper trail, Nagios, a whole bunch of monitoring solutions to really try to figure out if your new technology that you're using is helping you, for example, eliminate stupid mistakes, like one-off or off-by-one mistakes or null pointer blunders. The last thing, and this is the last slide that I want to talk about, is make sure that when it comes to productivity, you're actually talking to your fellow engineers. Productivity really is a mindset. For example, I love the Play framework. From the moment I deployed my first app to production with it. But really, productivity is a mindset, and there's a number of different tools that you can use to become productive. I'm going to be making these slides available. You can ping me on Twitter, you can write me an email, or you can see me at our booth. I'd love to help you guys figure out how you can apply or adopt Akka, Scala, Play at your own company, and take it from a guy who had to sell it across the company several times. Thank you very much. Yep.
How do you release the new stack in production, along with your old legacy application running?
Sorry, the question was about new stack in production, or I couldn't hear.
How do you release your new stack in production?
Oh, right. So how do you release the new stack in production? You cross your fingers and you pray nothing goes badly. That's where having a really great DevOps, TechOps team comes in place. And we were just yesterday talking about this. There are a number of solutions when it comes to working with your CDN, like Cloudflare, roll out, roll back, redirect some parts of your traffic. Gatling was on display earlier today when it comes to performance testing locally before you go to production. And again, that's probably a whole conference just dedicated to that, how you simulate real load, where we have like 5 to 10 documents being uploaded in any given second. So that's a really good question, and it took us months to resolve that one.
I think I want to know about do you do parallel feature development on both the branches, continuously? Like data migration, my old system is taking new data, and how do I continue having this data back into the system? Those kind of things.
So data migration as well is the question, right? So this is where it's really important when you're, for example, applying a new technology. They try to isolate the number of moving parts, right? So, there was a silly example really where I stood up a static marketing site using Play framework. But that was a great example from the technology standpoint because it had very little interaction with the existing stack, right? So if you are, for example, changing we had an example of authentication performance issues. So Workday, from what I got, was not really changing the underlying data store or changing really the services. They were changing the middle layer, the orchestration of it. So again, going back to my slide about APM, where you want to instrument your application with New Relic or App Dynamics or whatever it is, understanding where the bottleneck is, and then take away all the other stuff, keep that fixed, and just focus on that. So it might be data migration issues, but usually it's not. Like usually there's other issues that you need to solve first. It's not like throw away your relational data build, replace everything using MongoDB. That is usually not the solution. All right, thank you guys.